I'll start with John Hale with the Courier Journal.
Cal, it's an interesting spot for you, having lost Kenny and lost Dwayne, two of the people you were closest to in the program. Just what's that change going to be like? How are you going to adapt to that moving forward?
Well, as you guys know, I've only done this a few years, but I've had many staffs, and what you do every time this happens is you're trying to piece them together in a way that your team needs them to be. And time changes. It's different now than it was 10 years ago. So now, again, as I look at assistants, it is, all right, what is their relationship with players? Are they into that? Are they into that development? In this program, it's the most important thing. Is their focus creating relationships with recruits? Or is their focus the next job that I'm trying to get here? Well, in this job at Kentucky, our total focus has to be on what we're all doing for these young people. And with Bruiser, I work with him. So there's no guessing who he is and what he's about. We work together. And he is as good a guy, a good a person. He'll have unbelievable relationships with the players that we have. He's a listener. I felt very comfortable. It was easy for me. And I've done things in the past where I brought in assistants together that I was having to hire two. And I brought them in together because I wanted to make sure they got along. How are you going to have a team if your staff doesn't get along? If one guy wants to, I got to be this guy and you got to play I've never done that. My staffs have been, this is all of us doing everything. And so I think it's going to be terrific. Now, on the other hand, I worked with Dwayne. He didn't work for me. He worked for Mitch. But we worked together, and he's become a dear friend. It's like anybody else that leaves a community you're in, a job that you're in, that has become a great friend and a great ear and a great voice that I trust. But if I'm about him, you got to wish him. And, as he was going through this process and I was talking to some people and Ellen looked at me and she's like, you understand that he could leave. You're helping. I have to. That's my job. That's what I've been about. So I'm happy for him. I think he's going to do a great job. When you heard the press conference, I think people said, why didn't he get a job a few years ago? I mean, but I hats off to Mitch. He's done a great job of preparing people for their next step. In Dwayne's life, for he and Allison and the kids, this is that next step. And he'll always be a phone call away. If I'm having an issue here, I'll call Dwayne. Dwayne, tell me what you think. He'll be doing two jobs, DePaul and what I need him to do here.
All right, we'll go with Kyle Tucker with The Athletic.
Cal, Dwayne said, I talked to Dwayne yesterday. He said he thought sort of the shape, you had Kenny for 10 years, you had Dwayne for 11. He said he thought the change, all this change would re-energize you. Is that fair to say? And as sort of a follow-up to that, what can you tell us about this new position you've created and why it came about?
Well, the first one is if you look at things like change is good. I mean, I've always been that way. It's not like you want to lose friends. Kenny, forget about Kenny worked with us. He was my friend. And so, but if it's a two-way friendship, you've got to cheer for them and their success. And if that means they have to leave to do that, well, then you have to be about it. But look, you guys are getting to know me. I'm pretty much, I do try to do the same thing every year and play the same way. And what gets me going is trying to figure out a team every year. That's what wakes me up in the morning. Creates some fear in my heart and some anxiety. Maybe I'm getting up because I can't sleep. but it's what moves me. Trying to come up with new ways, like reworking the staff. We bring in another person that, again, is he going to have great relationships with the players? Is he that kind of person? Is he a gatherer? Is he somebody that everybody will like, that will bring people together? Those kind of people, the reason they're thought of that way is because they're into the job they have, not the next one, or they're into that one. And so you try to find those kind of people. And as you help them reach their dreams, and we're doing it together. So reworking, possibly a recruiting coordinator, trying to get things more organized on that front, figuring out on-court stuff. I've got some decisions to make on what I want to do. But I'll tell you, here's the one thing that hasn't changed. I'm at Kentucky. I'm the head coach of Kentucky. Oh, yeah. And let me say this. Whoever the next coach here is will say the same thing. Stuff is going to change. This is going to happen. How about all those kids leave? How about you're watching these playoffs and you're like, that kid wasn't the best kid in the class, and he was already a pro before he got there. I watched him at the beginning of the year. But then you watch them in that league, in that bubble. I don't know if they have bubble trouble. I don't know what they got, but they're playing really well. And those are our guys, and that's not going to change. So, I've got some things I got to do, but here's what I do know. I'm the head coach at Kentucky. And what we do for kids and the opportunities, not everybody wants it. Not everybody wants to go through this. And what I'm saying is the glare is on you. There's no place to hide. You're going to have other great teammates. You're going to be coached and loved by me and have a relationship the rest of your life with me. But it's hard here. It's Kentucky. You can't hide. Things that you could do at other schools can't do. You're not going to be told you're the only guy and I'm going to do everything through you. You're not going to be told that here because there's 7, 8 other guys. But here's what I do know. Change happens, and the Kentucky program has kind of stayed where it is.
All right, guys, bear with me. We got a bunch of questions, so I'll try to get around to everybody. First one goes Steve Newhouse, and then Paul Banks will make our way to you. Go ahead, Steve. Steve, hold on. I think you're on mute. I'm trying to unmute you. There you go, Steve. There you go. Go ahead.
Hey, John, Chicago guy here. Yesterday, Dwayne said that he'd be contacting you and to get a series going with the Wildcats. Wanted to get your reply to that.
I'm going to help Dwayne in any way I can. And he may call me for scheduling, but I got some issues I'm dealing with that I'm going to be calling him about. And we have him until September 1st. So I probably don't want to hear anything about the DePaul until September 1st. And if he talks about it, I said, enough DePaul stuff. We still got stuff we got to do here. But no, I'll we played in Chicago. I've been up in Chicago. I think DePaul's a terrific program. The biggest thing, when I was in the Atlantic 10 and I took over a program that was in a similar position as DePaul, my question is, has anybody in the Big East been in the Final Four or the Atlantic 10? And at that time, Temple had been number 1 in the country. So my question is then why we're in the same league? Why can't we be number 1? Then again, I was young, I was stupid, I was dumb, I didn't know what I was talking about. But that was my vision. And in the Big East, it's the Big East. It still has the aura of the Big East. I grew up in the Big East. I had to fight the Big East. I was at UMass, and we were surrounded by Big East. I know what it is, a big beast. And so what I'm saying is he's looking at this like, why not? And then everybody's got to jump on board with that. Why not? the statement he made about, we want to win a championship. When I was at UMass, Michael Hooker, rest his soul, who was our president at the time, later became the chancellor of North Carolina. We're at a meeting, and in front of media, he said, within the decade, this was the president of the university, within a decade, we're going to have a team in the Final Four. At that time, we were top 20, top 25, and I was sitting there like, what? And so my comment was, I was there with Joni O'Brien, our women's coach, and I said, I think Joni can do it, and I wish her well. But through his eyes, it got us all to think different. Like, Final Four, no one in the Atlantic 10 has ever been in a Final Four. Why would we think we could do it? Because he said we could. And I think that's kind of what Dwayne did. But you're going to see Dwayne's a gatherer. He's a listener. He's a problem solver. He is a person who will negotiate. Like, there are things like, Cal, you can't, no, we're not doing that. We can't afford, no. But how about we do this? Would this solve that issue? You just don't want to hear when you're trying to build, you can't because we've never done it that way. Yeah, but that's why we're where we are. So we got to try some different things. And that's the kind of guy you're going to have, a problem solver, a smile on his face. Yet, and Eric knows this, dude's a tough dude now. Ooh, oh yeah, it's in there. It's just, like, we're all rolling. And, I think, again, you all in Chicago are going to say, wow, this is something interesting going on here. Let's jump on board.
All right, Paul Banks, you're up next.
Thanks for doing this, Coach Cal. Another Chicago guy, so I got another question kind of related to yesterday's presser with Dwayne. He spoke about how you helped him become an idea person and vice versa, and he gave a story about how he got you to join Twitter the first time. And my question is, what are some of the things that have led to success for you and Dwayne in Lexington that you think might be able to translate to Lincoln Park in Chicago here?
Well, there was trust. I had to trust when he told me about Twitter because I didn't know what it was. I mean, Eric can tell you, I can get on Zoom now because this computer stays on all the time because I don't know how to turn it on and off. And the second thing, I know what 3 buttons to push, like move the little thing, whatever that arrow is. And so when he talked to me about that and Facebook and this and how we're going to do this, I said, you got to talk to me now. And he knew I'm never going to do anything to embarrass you, but this is a way. And we went with it. And all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? This guy's pretty sharp. And the other stuff that we went back and forth with, I can't – maybe sometime he and I should put in a book how many stupid things that we came up with that we never ran with, who were so stupid. You on this call would say, you didn't talk about trying to – what? That's so stupid. Who would even say that? So there are things, and there are other things that we tried that we kind of buried because they didn't work. But that's all part of having ideas and trusting each other. I knew I could trust him, and he knew he could trust me. I tell him all the time, I would trust him with my kids. And so he is an idea guy. Not all of them are good, but so what? You only need 2 of them. The other 30 throw away. Here are the 2 that are going to work that are moving us in the right direction.
Kent Spencer, WHS, go ahead.
Yeah, John, Kenny, over the years did so much work with your all's big man. Who takes over that now that he's gone?
Well, Tony would, and Tony's always been that guy too. Again, I don't want you to pigeonhole Kenny as a big man coach. Kenny is a coach. When I talk to the Knicks, he's not a workout guy. Yeah, he can work out players. We all can do that. That's why we coach. He is a basketball coach who creates great relationships and gets kids to do things or thought or literally didn't want to do. Now, some ran from it. They would walk in to see if he was in the gym, and they put their head back and wait for practice to start. Those kids never broke through. Now, they may break through after because they realized, I got to work. There's no giving to this. That's who he was. But Tony will take on some of it. You know, we've done some things and last year that I had Tony really put defensive schemes together and then come to me. And then if I liked it, if there were things I wanted to change, if there were different ways I wanted to play something, that would be fine. And then Kenny really zeroed in on the offense, getting us to make extra passes, getting our spacing right, getting guys to cut hard. And then I had each guy doing that. Now, what I'll do with the offense this year, right now, we had Joel and I were the only two on the floor for the last month and a half, just he and I together. And I'm just telling you, I love it. It's back to my UMass days where I got one assistant and I'm on the court coaching. So all that I'm doing right now is putting in the dribble drive slowly so that because I have time. And I'm really getting them to understand spacing. And then I'm getting them to watch an NBA game who are running dribble drive, who are running it from middle pick and rolls to where it's called a short roll, where the big guy doesn't roll all the way to the rim. He just short rolls, and they throw that little pocket pass. And the starting playmaker now becomes that big man. You're seeing Bam do it. And again, the spacing is what I'm teaching right now. So how I'll do the offense and will it be Bruiser? You know, he and I will sit down and, you know, to catch up on all this. We didn't run dribble drive when I was at UMass. So, you know, he hasn't gone through all the teaching of how we do this.
All right, we're going to Larry Vaught next, and Myron Metcalf will come to you. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, John, kind of follow up there what you talked about where you've been on the court with your guys. Rather than talk about who's left you, can you talk a little bit about how these guys that you have been coaching, what you've kind of thought of them in the last month, the work you've got to do with them?
Are you talking the new players or the return? Okay, yeah.
I'm just talking your whole team.
Yeah, I'm really, yesterday's practice reminded me of a practice about 4 or 5 years ago where you would drive and 2 players would block your shot, like bam, bam. And I laughed and we were out there and I just said, that's what I'm talking about. That kind of team makes somebody shoot jump shots. That kind of team has your shooting percentage defensively so low that most of the game you're out running. And then you're flowing into dribble drive. And so, you know, we've got a long way to go. Again, it's August. But it was funny yesterday. It was the first day we've done anything against each other. Everything has been separated in groups. I want to keep going through the testing. I want to make sure if we have any issues, I'm challenging the players. If they can't live like this, they can't be here. You gotta. We're in the lodge, in the practice facility, cooks in the building. I mean, the weight room. Look, if you go out and do something outside, you don't need to be here because you're going to infect everybody. And we got this pretty well in order. So, you know, the guys have been great. Hard. This thing is hard. I'm more concerned with mental health than anything else because, you know, they know to wear the mask and gloves and stay away and social distance. And they hear what parties are doing and all this. But when you're locked in a room for 18 hours a day, my concern is, all right, what do we do with these guys every other day? Something to get them out of way, to get them, you know, I've taken them to some meals where it's been great separation in a private room just to get them off the campus and out of their room. How do we do that? I'm dealing with that. And I don't, you know, we talked about opening up our locker room. I'm not sure I'm ready to do that yet, to where they can all congregate together. Because again, you know, one guy doing something dumb can lock you down. Even if we're going live, guys, I'll go 5-7 minutes and then we'll do something scripted. In other words, 5-on-0, 3-on-0, where there's space. And then we'll come together again for 5-7 minutes and then we'll separate. I'm trying to be respectful because we're learning new every day. And I just want to make sure with my guys, I'm doing this in a safe way.
All right, Myron with ESPN, you're up.
John, you've obviously been very vocal in the wake of things that happened with George Floyd and being very involved there. I'm curious if your players came to you and said they wanted to demonstrate protest on the court next season to show, how they feel about some of these issues, how would you respond to that?
Well, Myron, you know me well enough. First of all, I had to sit back and listen. Even though I'm white privilege, even though I grew up the way I grew up, I was still white, which meant I had an advantage. Even though it was Friday to Friday and I had one pair of tennis, but it didn't matter. So when this all happened, that's why I shut down the Coffee with Cal. I got to listen and really, am I missing? What else am I missing? And so we came up with a thing we were going to do on our campus only, Minority Leadership Initiative. And then I had friends come and say, why don't you do this to scale and get other coaches to do what you're doing? We got 75 coaches committed. We already have, 18 jobs posted. I'm hoping this year we end up with double that, like 36 to 50 jobs posted. And it's for young minorities to get involved in college administration, which may lead to whatever, jobs in business, whatever. That being said, I sat down with my team and I said, I know your opinion. You can speak, you can show how you feel, but to me, it's always about action. What do you want to do? So the first thing was the way you move your feet. The first way is you vote. I'm not telling you how to vote. Vote for who you want. But that's an action. Vote. We signed them all up. They've all registered. And now the last piece of that will be getting some mail-in ballots. But they're all excited about it. But I ended the meeting with, I want to know opinions, talk, speaking, showing what action can you take as a group to make a difference in maybe one person's life. What can we do that you can do together or individually that we can make a difference with people? I told them I'm going to want them to be involved with the 6 minority leaders that are going to be on our campus, that are going to be learning and growing, and I want them to be involved. I don't know how yet, but we've talked about that, action, move your feet, voting. And now we haven't gotten to the point. Thought maybe they mentor at the Boys and Girls Club. They become mentors, and once a week I create a time where they can be, where they're changing one life. And so all the other stuff out there, I think, again, I will listen. It's what I do. Talk to me, tell me why, tell me what can we do?
All right, next up we're going with Eric Decker, and then it looks like we have 4 other questions in the queue, and we'll limit to that, guys, because I've got to get them off here at 12:30. So Eric, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're staying safe. So going back to when you mentioned how Kenny Payne was often thought as or referred to as a sort of a front court coach, but he thought or more is just a basketball coach in general. The same reputation can be said with Bruiser a little bit. Obviously, you have the stories of your guys' time in Amherst with working with Marcus. I asked him sort of the same question, and he had that exact same answer where he thinks he's just a coach in general and he can work with anyone. Is there anywhere specific you want him working with, like the guards or a front court, or is it just whatever he can do to help the team?
We got to get together and figure out, what's the best thing for these kids with this staff that we're piecing together. And let me say this, you're right. He would work with big guys. Well, he's not a big guy. Doesn't mean you can't show them and teach them. There were times Kenny was with Tyler Hero or Devin. He was in it with Devin Booker in the gym at 11 o'clock at night. It didn't matter. We're coaches here. We'll get pigeonholed at times, but I want my guys to coach basketball. And let me say this, we all recruit together. We're not having, you're going to recruit this guy, you're going to recruit this guy. And here's what I come back to. You have Kentucky, to sell are the results of what this is, and me and the results. I mean, that's you go in and that's where it is, and that's bang, let's go. And now if someone else has to jump in on the recruiting, they do.
All right, John Wong, you're up next.
Hey, John, I know you don't pay any attention at all to social media, so I wanted to kind of get you caught up to date on that. I'm sure you've heard by now that your post on taking the players down and registering them to vote drew a lot of comments. Half the people thought you walked on water. Half the people thought you were the Antichrist. What does it say about the state of the nation, specifically within Big Blue Nation, when you get an issue like that that is so polarizing?
Well, I knew it would bring both. But I'm not, first of all, I don't see it. I may ask Eric, and Eric would protect me if I'm really getting bashed. But the whole point of it is to teach someone to vote. And you're talking now 12 votes. It's more of their action than they're going to make some sort of big difference. And we said, you vote with someone who believes in what you believe. That's how you vote. You listen to the facts and listen to what they're saying and you vote for them. So if someone was disappointed or someone thinks I'm the worst human being, if they asked me that, I would say, I agree. Can we move on? And if someone came back and said, oh man, Cal, that's the greatest thing, I'd say, great, let's move on. But it's me teaching my team. And, there are times I'll do things that I know aren't the most popular, but what's right isn't always popular, and what's popular isn't always right. I'm just trying to do what I think is right.
All right, finish this off, guys. We'll go with John Hale, Steve Newhouse, and then Kent Spencer. John, go ahead.
Cal, this is the first time we've talked to you since the African American and Africana Studies faculty asked for the Rupp Arena name to be changed. One, what's your personal opinion on that? And two, have any of your players, recruits, former players mentioned that to you at all as something they're concerned about?
Well, no, I haven't heard anything on that side. But again, this for all of us that was from what I understand, they were talking about a lot of different things. This is another chance for us to listen and learn. Some people agree, some people are not going to agree. I would tell you again, for me personally, knowing the family, knowing Herky like I did, all right, what's out there that tells me it's something different? And I'm all ears, I'm going to listen. But here's what I do know. The university is doing stuff going forward. Diversity issues on our campus they're dealing with. Very important for us. What we're doing in the Minority Leadership Initiative, we are taking the front position in this, the lead position. As this thing goes and grows, it's going to be, Kentucky is going to be the lead in what we're doing and be the program that's going to say, here are the best case scenarios in this and how we do it. But again, I'm all ears to all this stuff because again, you have the thing in Wisconsin. What in the world? How can this, again, after this, all that we've been through again? So am I missing something? Is everybody missing something? We just got to keep talking about it. And then you got to look at this in a bigger picture of what we're doing. And I'm telling you, what we're trying to do here on this campus and what I'm trying to do within my basketball program, the influence that I would have within athletics that isn't all encompassing, but I do have an influence. We're trying to take advantage.
All right, Steve Newhouse, back to you.
John, when you first arrived in Lexington and you had Dwayne as your SID, did you ever imagine that one day he'd be in charge of his own program?
Yeah, because when you're around him, you looked at a person that was steady Eddie as far as the highs, the lows. You're talking about a servant leader who was trying to help everyone around him. I never looked at it white or black. It's just, how good is this guy? And Eric will tell you, you know, I've been here and I've done this a long time. And as deserving as anybody that I've been around, whether it was UMass or Memphis or here, Dwayne Peavy deserved to be a head of a program and athletic director. He deserved it. The more you're around them, the more listen, for any coach to give an assistant AD their scheduling, the number one thing, because some of you complain it's, oh, the scheduling, they play nobody. Normally, that's the head coach scheduling, and he ain't playing anybody. Well, we're at Kentucky, and it kind of got to where I felt more comfortable with him and I working together than anybody else. Like, Dwayne, you take this on, everything goes through you, and then you come to me and let's talk about it. We'll see what's the best for these kids. We can't overdo it. We can't underdo it because everybody kill us, but we can't overdo it because we always have young teams. How do we challenge them but not bury them? And then having to deal with the RPI and all the other stuff, he was tremendous. But it showed me, you know, at the time and the trust I had and the trust he had in what I was doing, that we could work together and build something. And that tells me, and Eric will laugh, if you can work with me, you can work with anybody. I'm kidding, folks, and you better laugh at that. But he's going to do a great job.
All right, Kent, go ahead and end us off.
Yeah, Cal, are you starting to get a little bit concerned about Olivier Sarr's status? And are you doing some things outside the box to ensure, or are you actively involved to ensure that you guys are going to have a college basketball season?
I feel good about Olivier's situation. It's just going through channels. So, you know, we should hear when, let me put it, we'll hear when we hear. But I feel comfortable with it. The other one is, yes, I'm on all kind of things. I'm on an ad hoc. I'm on the NABC board. When we start, how we start, how do we do this safely? You know, if you want my opinion on league only, if you ask my players, they'd say, Coach, we don't want to just play in the league. We want to play some other people. How do you do that safely? I have a big concern. My big concern, because I've coached there, is at schools that need the guarantee money. So now all of a sudden, you know, there are teams that, my son goes to the University of Detroit. They play 7 or 8 bye games, which means those games, they're paid to play those games that help their program. If you take $500,000 or more away from Detroit, I could tell you 80, 90 schools, you take that money away from those programs, they're going to be on their back. So how do we include them in this and not forget, like, okay, we're only worried about the Power 5. I coached at these other places. I know what they're doing, and we've talked about it. Do we guarantee contracts going forward? Do we do something in a bubble and try to give them a percent? We don't have those solutions yet. But again, the league, our league, you know, I trust our league that they'll come up with stuff. How many games we're going to play, don't know yet. Do we play on long weekends, coming together someplace? Do we, you know, do you play in on different on-campus sites where if there are 2 on-campus sites, one's at Kentucky, one's at, let's say, Tennessee, we go to Tennessee and Tennessee comes to our court, so there's no home court advantage. There's none anyway. You're seeing it in the NBA right now. Do you understand? There's no home court advantage there. They're all in this bubble. There's no fan. There was somebody that was up 20, Houston or somebody, or the Clips. They were up 23. If that was at home, they were not going to lose that game. That game can be lost now. Well, that's going to be the case with playing multiple teams together, which the NBA and the WNBA have given us a path that we can do it safely. Not going to be exactly the same. It's not going to be for 2-3 months. But how do we do this and make sure everybody's safe and include all the programs? Like if 70 programs say we're out of business, no more basketball, do you know how many scholarships that is for young people in our country, like my son, to be able to go to a lower school? What does it do to some of the leagues? What's it do to HBCUs? Tell me how this is going to play and how we're trying to do it. And that's why I said there's a lot of people involved trying to do right, keep people safe, yet all of us I just saw a school today cut 5 sports. I want you all to hear this. We have to have this tournament if we can do it safely, because none of us want any cuts on our campus for sports. We don't want to see any sport on at the University of Kentucky. We're not having the sport anymore because we can't do this and we can't do that. So playing that tournament, doing anything we can to save all the programs. It isn't about Kentucky basketball. Listen to me. After this year is over, there's going to be Kentucky basketball. Just is. But if we don't do this right, there may not be this sport, that sport, that sport. Not fair to those students. If you want to read a sad story, read the one of I think it was Iowa, that had to cut programs today. It's the last, no one wants to do it. So we got to try to figure out a way and do it safely, even if it's smaller or however we decide.
All right, guys, that'll wrap us up for this. Appreciate Coach's time. To media members, we'll get a transcript and the video replay out to the